Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's online coach. Today, I've got a special guest. I say that with every person that I talk to, but honestly, today is going to be a really awesome podcast. So I am joined by Alice Round. For those who don't know who Alice is, she's a female transformation coach who not only specializes in transformation, but she also specializes in women who are pregnant, postnatal, lifestyle coaching, comp prep. She's a mom of two. She's a wife. She's a friend. She's a daughter. She is literally like this multifaceted type of woman, and it is so cool to have you on board today with me. So Alice, welcome.
Thank you. And I will say fiance for another 6 months. But yes, we're currently planning our wedding, which has been postponed 3 times due to COVID and a baby in the middle of that. So yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And you make me sound very busy.
Well, we know you are. So, so for those who don't know who you are and how you got into the fitness industry, do you mind giving them a little bit of a background? What got you into health and fitness, and why did you decide to become a coach?
Yeah, for sure. So I think we'll do the brief summary, I guess. I got stuck into it because since the age of 5 or 6, basically coming out the womb, my mum said from 10 months old, I was climbing out of my cot and just a full-on active kid. So I think being active has always been something in my life, and I know that for a lot of people that stems passion from it. It definitely has for me, and I grew up being a sort of state, then national, then international level sprinter, so that's my background. Was pretty good, and then kept getting struck down by a lot of injuries. So I kept getting hamstring tendonitis and calf strains and all these things, and I couldn't figure out why, and it was all happening when I was around sort of end of high school, going into university, not really 100% sure what I wanted to do, thought I wanted to be a PE teacher or something in the sport field. I always knew it would be something there. Was tossing up a few career paths, and the injuries just got me really interested in biomechanics and how we move. And as a runner, we did a little bit of resistance training, but it wasn't really a key focus. It was kind of the extra little stuff you do. It wasn't the main bread and butter. So after working with some really good physios, it got me really passionate about injuries and me learning about, my glutes weren't firing. That was why I kept injuring my hamstrings, because they were overpowering and all of this sort of stuff. So anyway, long story short, I went to uni, did sports science, wasn't really, again, 100% sure where that was taking me, but that kind of opens up a few playing fields. And then I actually at that point was going through an eating disorder and was struggling with bulimia quite severely. And again, a lot of pressure in the athletic community. You're running around in a crop top and sports bra and, small items of clothing. So it did start to make me quite self-conscious when I was going through that kind of getting your period, that stage in life where your body's changing, and really not knowing what to do with my nutrition, because I'd always been quite petite my whole life, and then I started to gain a little bit of body fat and not really know what was going on. So then it sparked the passion in the nutrition side of things, because I knew that I was already a PT at this point. I knew that what I was doing wasn't sustainable with my nutrition, and I felt like a bit of a hypocrite to my clients, because I was in the gym, coaching females and telling them to, eat a balanced diet. And here I was avoiding carbs and doing all these extreme things, then binge eating at night. So I think I really just knew that I was in the right career and I was passionate about it, but I wasn't really being my authentic self just yet. So we're 14 years deep, and I'm still figuring out and navigating where I fit in that. But then I went on to study dietetics at the end of my sports science degree, so going really into that nutrition path. Thought I would want to work clinically, hated it, wasn't for me. And here I am, didn't think that I just saw personal training as kind of this thing I was going to do when I was through uni. And then I ended up really falling in love with it and it becoming a career. And Then, rolling into online coaching from that, which, it was kind of just happened. I was traveling a lot, competing in bodybuilding, and I'd go away and my PT clients would be like, can you write me a program when I'm gone? And that's kind of how the online coaching started. And it was back when not many coaches were doing online. So it was kind of this new thing that no one really knew what they were doing, but we gave it a crack and we just wanted to support our clients. And then I knew I don't have kids. So kind of the online grew, and I stopped doing hands-on PT about 4 years ago. And that's kind of why I'm here. I guess, like I said, just to summarize, that passion for performance, making people function better, and helping women who don't know what the fuck they're doing with nutrition, and just preventing other women going through eating disorders and down that path by educating without the bullshit and creating sustainability. That's probably my biggest passion.
What a story. Wow. Seriously. Every time someone tells me their background, I was just like, wow, that is so fascinating, because you just notice these two different dynamics of where people are coming from, and then you find that path that you want to end up on. And it's very inspiring, especially, from only being a sprinter and then going into weight training, and then having this passion on wanting to learn the biomechanics of the body, and not only for yourself, but once you became a PT, you notice those like missing gaps with your clients as well. And then on top of that, within nutrition. And I can totally relate to you about in the past telling your clients to, eat balanced meals, and you're often on the weekend having like pizzas, burgers, like getting fucking drunk, and you're like, hey, just do your best.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely not practicing what I preached back then, that's for sure.
We learn from our mistakes, eh?
Yeah, 100%. And I think also the community back then, which if we look back at what society was doing 10, 12 years ago, it was very different to what's going on now. It was very much on the diet, off the diet, crash diets. There wasn't a lot of talk about metabolism and sustainability. And like it's shifted so much in a really positive way. And I think, like, I'm showing my age here, but I guess it's been a cool thing seeing that journey to people wanting to gain weight and seeing weight gain as a good thing, and like women's bodies being more accepted. Like back then, this puts it into perspective, my idols that I used to want to look like back when I was 16 were like, Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston on Friends, like that stick thin kind of physique, and your Victoria's Secret models. And now
Victoria's Secret models were like my idols.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at their bodies and you're like, they're almost 7 foot tall. I'm 5'4". Like, come on, like that's just not realistic.
Not at all.
Like it's so crazy. But I think now the world, if you're in this industry now, I think it's actually a really good time to be a coach, because it's less about what you look like and more about your brain, your intellect, what you can do for your clients. Because back then you were judged a lot as a trainer on how you looked. And I think that put a lot of pressure on me for several years, until I kind of accepted that what I was doing wasn't sustainable. I was doing back-to-back shows, competing, and it was almost like a way of just staying lean in a really unhealthy, unrealistic manner. So it's been a journey, that is for sure.
I love that. And it's always good to like reflect back and notice what changes you've made and what changes you're noticing within the industry itself. And you know what? I totally believe within the next 5 minutes, next 5 years, it's going to change again.
For sure.
It's just going to continuously evolve. And like you said, a lot of women these days are not just focusing just on what they're looking like, but how they're feeling as well.
100%. Yeah. They're caring about the holistic package more than just the external, which is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And for someone who's very passionate around nutrition, I'm sure you're noticing that change around that whole topic of women not fearing food as much.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really hard, because to be honest, when I went through my dietetic degree, a lot of the stuff that put me off working clinically, and I'm probably going to get killed by a few dietitians, but I'm sure the uni degrees are different. Like, this was 6-7 years ago. So I'm sure what they're teaching now has been changed. But I didn't also align with a lot of the stuff that they're wanting us to do. So it was like, if someone was really, really overweight and say going into bariatric surgery, you had to, give them a 500-calorie diet and see if they could lose weight quickly. And it was just, to me, it just didn't align with, again, a lot of the values that I was wanting to practice. And then with your Gen Pop clients wanting to lose a few kilos, it was the opposite, where it was like, give them very general, broad advice, where for some people who are struggling, and I know myself personally with my ED, that if somebody gave me that general, broad advice back then, I actually did go to a dietitian back then when I was about 17 going through it. And the advice was so broad that I left confused. I left going, I don't know what to do with that. Like, you're telling me to just eat a balanced meal. What does a balanced meal look like?
Yes.
So I think it's really hard. And so it kind of just, I think the biggest thing I've learned is that as you go throughout your career, it's okay to pick and choose things that you like doing and things that you resonate with and going, oh wow, I'm super passionate about that, then learn more about that and then evolve from there, rather than getting stuck in a box of, okay, I'm a personal trainer now, that's all that I'm doing. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, if it doesn't fulfill you, like, continue to evolve if you don't 100% align with something, because there's so many different ways to skin a cat. Like, at the end of the day, like, there's one way of nutrition that'll work for one client, and then I got another client who's doing something else as well. And I think as a coach, to be a good coach, you need to be able to pivot within your client space as well, and not coach everyone the exact same, because we've all got different psychology.
Yeah, and different needs as well. And I love the fact that you mentioned how, you know, back in the day you went to that dietitian and she's like, eat a balanced meal. And you come out of that session going, well, fuck, what is a balanced meal? What does that look like? And that also relates beautifully into calories as well. You know, when people are always wanting to find what their calorie target is and they spit it into a computer, it's just like, yeah, cool, it gives you a freaking number, but it doesn't actually assign everything else that you're needing to know. And that's, as you said, that's the beauty of working with a professional who can actually outline everything for you and making sure if that number is correct and what a balanced meal looks like for you individually.
Yeah, and also where those numbers are going, like, because we all know that, well, if you don't listen to it, calorie numbers aren't stagnant. So as your metabolism up or down regulates, they're going to fluctuate. So your maintenance, and I use inverted quotes because I don't really believe in the word maintenance sometimes, because your maintenance changes. So if your maintenance is 2,500 calories and then you stay on that for 3 weeks, you actually lose a bit of weight because your metabolism up regulates. Your new maintenance is now 2,600 or 2,700. So again, if you use an online calculator and go, I'm just going to stay on these numbers for a year, like, that might be okay, but you may not actually build any muscle or get any physical composition results because your body's just kind of sitting there stagnant. So it's one of those things where calculators, there's pros and cons, but they're not going to be able to adjust to the variances of being a human being, the day-to-day stuff and the things that happen throughout our life. So good start point, but make sure that you, obviously, if you're confused, get a coach and just invest even in a once-off consultation where they can, you know, chat to you and be like, explain exactly that, why this number won't work for you now. But if your goal is X or Y, that you might have to change and you don't know how your body's going to respond to that. It's that whole thing that we constantly say in our jobs, it depends, and it annoys clients, but it makes you a good coach. If your coach isn't saying it depends and giving you a black or white to everything and there's no gray area, I would probably be asking a few more questions. Yeah.
I'd be asking a lot of more questions. Yeah. Oh my God. I love the fact that we're talking about nutrition, because I feel as if a lot of females are still confused around that topic. And like you mentioned, maintenance changes over time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's a crazy one. Like, I remember I was saying to a client the other day, we're prepping her for a show at the moment, and she goes, oh, I feel like this prep's been really easy compared to my last one. And I said, because your maintenance that we came in on was 3,000 calories. When we came in on your last prep, you're only eating 2,200. So you had to go to 1,100 calories in that comp prep to get lean. Now she's getting lean on 1,700 calories. And I'm talking like stage lean, which, as you would know, is very, very lean. So again, it's that cool factor of understanding that if you also are somebody listening to this who thinks you have a slow metabolism or a sluggish metabolism, that it's not the way it has to be for the rest of your life, that you can also get to a place where it's improved. So yeah, it's a cool, interesting topic, but you've got to, I guess, I always say to clients, you've got to be in the mindset of like a growth mindset around it rather than fixed. Because if you get really stuck or be a victim to the situation that you're in right now or your circumstances, then you're never going to go anywhere with it. You're just going to be like, oh, I'm the person with the slow metabolism, or, you know, I'm the person that's always carrying, you know, more body fat than what I'm comfortable with, rather than I can do something about it, but it might just be playing the long game a little bit more.
And that's where it's important for people to realize that they are in it for the long run, not just for a short-term fix.
Yeah, 100%.
Like for comp prep.
Yeah. I say to clients, like, they're like, when should I come to you for a prep? And I go, like I like a year out as a minimum. And they're like, but why? Are we dieting for a year? And I'm like, no, like, we need to like make sure your health's on point, your metabolism's on point, you're built muscle in the right areas. Like we could even do a 2 or 3 year before you even get on stage. Like it's not, I think people forget that the comp prep isn't about just the dieting down phase. It's about everything else building up to that. And there's some people that, I might have fantastic genetics and be able to do a 16-week prep and win a show. That's not the norm. The norm is probably a couple of years, put in that work, maybe do a local show first, and then get to the point where they're more competitive. But yeah, it's really nutrition. Unfortunately, I always say to clients, it's doing the not so sexy stuff that no one talks about all the time, day in, day out. Waking up and doing your food prep, and when clients say, oh, but it's hard. And I'm like, yeah, but like everyone, it's hard for everyone. It's not like, I had a client say to me the other day, oh, I bet you just don't crave junk food. I said, mate, like I would love to just sink a pizza every night, but like one, my gut health's not going to be great. I'm not going to be able to meet my protein needs. I'm not going to be able to then build muscle. It doesn't align with all these goals. Sure, I could do that once a week, but like if I did that nightly and wasted 1,000 calories a day on pizza, like I'm not going to be where I need to be. Would I rather eat a pizza than eat a carrot? Probably, but like it's about choices without. It's such a hard thing to talk about because then I also don't want to make my clients feel like they have to be so restricted. So it is finding that quote unquote balance with how you approach your nutrition and also your mindset with it, that you can still get results, but it's going to come with a little bit of sacrifice maybe, but also you can still fit things in and have fun with it. And that's kind of, I guess, how I try to be with my clients. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, like you said, you know, you do need to sacrifice certain things when you're doing a comp prep.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned a good point here about balance. And before we started actually recording, that was one of my questions for you today. It has nothing to do with nutrition, but balance really sparked that question back. And, you know, as a mum of 2, you're almost a fiance, well, about to, you know, get married. You run a really successful business. What does balance look like for you?
So balance has definitely shifted since I've had kids. I could run through, I guess, a little bit about what my life was like before kids and then after, which I think is good for the coaches that don't have children as well listening. So I had 2 kids under 2, which in itself is hectic. So yeah, my kids are 14 months apart. I accidentally got pregnant breastfeeding at 5 months postpartum, so it can be done for anybody listening. It was a beautiful miracle though. So I've got a little boy and a little girl, and they're just the best little things in the world. But that I have pretty hectic kids. Like, you know, there's some kids that you go to the park and they just come sit there. Like my kids are the ones running around, and I wonder where they get that from. Obviously me from a young age, and also my partner. But I think I've learned that with my type of children, it's quite challenging to get anything done when they're around. Like my son is now just started walking. He's 10 months and my daughter's 2. So they're both at ages where their needs are very high. And now this is something that I talk about when it comes to balance. So if I'm talking to a mum who has kids who are 6 and 7 and in school 5 days a week, how her balance is going to look compared to a mum I'm talking to who has a newborn or a toddler is going to look completely different. So I always talk about, if you think about your cup and your cup is full, where in that cup are you going to kind of disperse those needs out? So yeah, or a pie chart. A pie chart's probably a better one. Where are those pieces of the pie going? So when your kids are super young, let's say you've got a newborn who's breastfeeding or bottle feeding, however you choose to feed, no judgment on me, 8-10 times a day. Do you think that you're going to have enough time to then, you know, coach 10 clients in the gym and, you know, spend time with your partner and train yourself for 2 hours and do a comp prep? And no, like it's just not going to happen. So your needs in that piece of that pie, maybe 80% of those slices of that pie are going to that newborn at that season of your life. But then as the child gets older and maybe they're sleeping through the night more and, you know, maybe they're not breastfed anymore and others are able to help, then you may start to have some of those pieces of the pie come back to you and you're able to put them somewhere else. So you're able to go, cool, I've got this little bit of time here. I'm going to invest it in my education. It might be that you want to do a course, or it might be that you do want to make some time for yourself and you want to invest in your own training or your business. But what I'm trying to say is that you have to be realistic of the season of life that you are in. And I always say you're going to have grind seasons and hustle seasons and chill seasons and enjoyment seasons and physique seasons. And it's really cool if you actually start to see it that way rather than I'm trying to do all of those at once, because that is when you burn yourself out. And I've done it many times before in the past, and you get super overwhelmed. Overwhelm leads to anxiety. Anxiety leads to depression. And it's just like a whole shit show of stuff going on. And I think a lot of mums in the postnatal space, a lot of the effects of postnatal depression is that they are trying to do too much. They're trying to service all those needs, or maybe not servicing themselves enough in that pie, that everything's going to everyone else and nothing left for themselves. So I think speaking to the mums, it's about making sure that in that pie, even though you've probably got very minimal slices you can give yourself, that you are giving yourself something. With prior to having children, kids made me realize how much I was procrastinating and not efficient in my business. I would actually say I'm much better at my job since having children. So that can also be a positive thing to anyone thinking about having kids. But I don't fuck around anymore. I don't have time to fuck around in my day. It is like everything is structured, everything is organized. That is a hard thing with kids. That doesn't always happen. And I think that the biggest thing I say to you listening is that you guys don't need to hear a blow by blow of my day, but what you do need to hear is that my situation may be different to another person. So what you need to do is reflect on your situation and what works for you, your family, your environment, your mental health, your goals. And then that is what, to me, balance looks like. As long as you are ticking all those boxes. So you can go to bed at the end of the day and go, I'm happy and fulfilled. I've got some energy. I'm not feeling completely flat. I'm aligning with my values. And, you know, I'm moving towards my purpose and I'm in my purpose. If you can at least tick off some of those things when you go to bed at night, that to me is balance. It's not trying to do 10 different things. So some days, balance, for example, yesterday was a day with my kids. I have Tuesdays off work, and balance for me on a Tuesday is just keeping my kids happy, well fed, and they're in bed by 7 o'clock, and then I can chill out. So that is a Tuesday, whereas today is a work day. My partner has the day off, he has the kids, and I try to get as much done of my business tasks as I can. So for me, my balance works best by divide and conquer. It's work days, kid days, separately, and I try not to work on the days that I'm with my children as minimally as I can, maybe a little bit in the evening quickly or first thing in the morning before they get up, and that's what works best for our family. I know that that doesn't work for everyone, and I also use childcare, again, an essential as a parent. So my daughter, my 2-year-old, goes 2 days a week and my son just goes 1 day a week. So that, I have my mum who helps. Like, it, as a parent and running a business, you need a team, you need a community, because there is no way that I could do this without that support network and work the way I'm working. So when people always say really kind compliments, and they'll say things like, oh, but you know, you look like Supermom. And I'm like, yeah, but I've got a tribe of, you know, Batman and Robin and like other people that are like on this with me. So yeah, it's really important to reflect that if you're not in my position of privilege where I have got those access to those things, don't beat yourself up. So if you are a, say, single mum who doesn't have the funds to fund daycare and you're trying to start up a business or become a personal trainer, your day-to-day may look a little different. You may have to juggle kids and work a bit more and work in nap times. My daughter, unfortunately, doesn't nap anymore, which is also why we can't do that. But like I said, it may be that you just put your kids in daycare 2 days a week and that's when you get all your work done or all your sessions. So I found personally for me that when I tried to juggle the two too much, like tried to multitask and try to get my kid to do an activity while I jumped on a client call, it felt very stressful and it didn't work for me because, as you would know as parents, if your parents listening, kids aren't robots. They might not want to sit down and paint while mummy takes a phone call when they're 2 years old. Like, they're like, no, mum, I want to, you know, dance with you and I want you to play with me, which is totally fair. And I never want my children to feel like, you know, mummy's putting work before them where I can. So yeah, look, it's one of those things that what I'm trying to say is it will look different for everyone. And as long as you don't compare to others and you can go to bed at night, like I said, being happy, fulfilled, aligning with your values, It's the most important thing. The same with prior to kids. I definitely used to like work too late, not have firm boundaries with people. And I think the boundaries ties into balance, which is something we spoke about before. You know, when I didn't have kids, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll work all weekend. I'll work 7 days a week. Like I didn't really care because I was like, well, I haven't really got much else to do besides like, you know, hang out with my friends, and I can do that whenever. So I didn't have very firm boundaries before kids and got very burnt out very frequently. Especially because I'm a hard worker, and you know, I would get 5 clients email me and say I want to start coaching, and I'd look at my diary and go, oh, I probably shouldn't start anyone for a couple of weeks, and they're like, but I'm so keen, and I'm like, all right, I'll stay up till midnight to get your plans done, let's start Monday. Like, so I've learned that that doesn't serve me whilst it might serve the client, and sometimes you're actually setting yourself up for disaster, because if you feel like there is a client who's quite pushy and needy from the start, that's probably not going to change as they become a client. And unfortunately, they might still push your boundaries when they are a client. So it's not their fault though, because I do believe that if you let people walk all over your boundaries, that is on you, not on them. So I've been much stricter with my boundaries since having children. I have those set work days. And that makes it easier with kids because you literally can't even think about opening your emails when you're chasing them around. But boundaries are key is what I'm trying to tell you. And you have to stick to them, not other people. So if you have someone that messages you at 8 o'clock at night and you're waking up pissed off because you had that message, who's it on? Is it on you or on them? Especially if they're not expecting a reply. They might just be sending it through because they're a shift worker. It works for them. Their kids are finally in bed and they're sending you a message. So as long as you have those boundaries that, hey, these are the hours of response, this is when I'll be serviceable to you, and, you know, I'm happy for you to message me outside of that, but I just won't be a reply, and then turn your notifications off. Yeah. That is how I best affirm boundaries. So my clients message me on WhatsApp and email usually. I will just, am in our training app, and I'll just turn all that off after business hours, turn it all off on the weekend, and that helps. So I don't know if that went completely off topic about balance, but I think also not getting caught up in hustle season is a big one as well. I think that understanding which season of life, like I said before, that you need to be in. So while someone else might be hustling and you're seeing them hustle on social media, if you've already had a hustle season, then like you deserve a chill season. Yeah. So I think that's really important as well. You don't always need to be creating, reinventing, doing this, doing that. And same within my business. So within the business, we'll have seasons where we're doing launches, and then we'll have seasons where we're improving the business. And it's the exact same with your life. So you'll have seasons in life of that, where you're working on yourself and your physical goals. Then you have a season where you're working, you know, you're more into your like reverse or maintenance phase, and you don't really need to give as much energy to your health and fitness. So then you can, go into study or take up yoga, do something chilled, meditate, read a book, whatever it is. So I'm trying to say you've got to navigate which season of life you're in, what values are important during that season, and where your time is best going to be distributed without overfilling your cup for that season, and being realistic that sometimes something has to give. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned in having kids. Like, I can't do it all now, but that's okay. And not seeing it as such a bad thing, that if a deadline that would normally take me 4 weeks now takes me 8 weeks with kids, that's okay, as long as everybody around me is clear on that and I have those boundaries set, then we're all happy. It's more when you put so much on your plate that then you feel like you're starting to fail, let people down. That's when burnout hits, anxiety, overwhelm. So again, know and feel when your plate is getting really full. That's probably the other big one. Like, we all do it, but feel it and listen to it when it starts to happen, and then do something about it actively rather than just being a victim. So that's, big ramble there, because it's probably a topic I'm really passionate about. Yeah.
Love it. Keep talking. Seriously. I love listening to someone who just is so passionate about these certain things, because you've experienced it yourself. You know what has happened, what worked, what didn't work. And I'm hopefully our listeners are taking fucking notes, because seriously, like, there's so many golden nuggets right now that you're talking about. First, we started off with the balance side of things, which I'm super passionate about. And I love that you mentioned that, once you become a mum or, whatever, you having a partner, you have to compromise. It's not just about you anymore. Like, life changes. It could even mean with work, as a coach, as a business owner, sometimes balance doesn't look 50-50. It might look 70-30. And like you said, I love the fact that you mentioned, you go through seasons like launches and then focusing more on the internal side of business. You don't always have to be so switched on. And it literally brought like a light bulb moment for me, because this week is more like a chilled week for me. You know, when you're on social media and you see everyone just like kicking ass and they're like, yeah, doing this. And I'm like, oh my God, I should be doing it. Yeah. And I have to like really like recenter myself and be like, no, Sig, like this week is a slow week for you. Like, please don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. And also, like, you don't know where their mindsets are. So they can be stressed out of their brain, but you don't see that on social media. And I think, well, not many people share that side of things as well, because that hustle culture is what we don't see, is that whole, like, just get up and grind and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, don't care about your mental health, just get it done. And I know personally for me, I'm more productive and effective when my mental health is in a good place. If I'm stressed out, I can't be creative. I don't have those juices flowing. I'm not able to like lean into my feminine. Like I'm really stuck in that kind of masculine energy, and that doesn't serve my creative side. So you need to, again, it was like I was postnatal with my son, and I learned, this is a good learning lesson for you, but he was like, honestly, like I just popped the kid out. I had a very surprise birth, and he came on pretty early on, and he was out of me in 4 hours and no drugs, and just I literally went trampolining with my daughter, and he was here the next minute. So that happened, and I was hoping that he was actually going to come after 40 weeks, and I'd aligned my work with the fact that, again, me thinking that children are predictable, that, oh no, I've got to 40 weeks. And I was actually launching writing a pregnancy and postnatal course for like an online academy, similar to what you guys done. I won't say their name because, you know, cross promotion. But I was helping them out with that, and we had deadlines, and I said, well, I've got to 40 weeks, right? Didn't happen. Kid came early, is what it is. And then I had to finish doing this course and filming video content after he was born. They were fine with it. Unfortunately, it was men that were helping me that don't have children, that didn't understand that when you're postnatal, you've just gone through childbirth and you're sleep deprived and you're trying to breastfeed, your brain doesn't function. And then I'm trying to write a course. So it was my own fault for overcommitting, is what I'm trying to say. But when I was in that space of sleep deprivation, this and that, it was so hard to get my brain to be creative and to function. And like, that is not a space that's going to breed happiness. So I was super stressed out finishing it off, feeling like my work wasn't good enough. All of these emotions of negativity were coming up for me. And afterwards I said to my partner, like, that was one of the dumbest things I ever did, but it taught me a really valuable lesson in that don't overfill your cup, especially when you're in situations where you can't control them, when you don't know what the outcome may be. So I always say to clients and also my staff, you're better off setting yourself up, not in a negative way, but kind of for the worst case scenario. So I have a lot of my clients, coaches who work for me are mums, and they'll have a really good day with their baby, and they'll be like, oh my God, they napped for 4 hours. I got so much work done. I could definitely take on 5 new clients. And I'm like, are you sure? Can we judge this on your bad day? And then they'll have a day where their kid's teething and got gastro, and they're like, oh my God, I only got 5 check-ins done today. I don't think I should take on more clients. So I always say, judge the amount of work you can get done on a harder day rather than on one of your best, most productive days. Because then if you have one of those best, most productive days, you might have some free time in which you can then fill it with something that brings you joy, or something where you're being more creative, or, you know, just chilling out, like all of these different things. So what I'm saying is, don't overfill your cup based on a good day, based on a normal or a mediocre day. And then you're only going to reap reward from that. It's like when I work with fat loss clients, and I always say, they come to me and go, I want to lose 6 kilos in 6 weeks. And I'm like, whilst we could do that, it could be achievable if you nail everything and every day is perfect and you don't mess up at all and we go aggressive and you're able to be compliant to those low calories. We could do it, but is it being realistic with factoring in life, social situations, all of that? How about we aim for 3? And if we achieve more than that, that's a bonus. And I think if you set yourself up that way, I think some people see that as a bad thing, as like, well, you're not aiming very high. It's not that. It's that you're aiming realistically, and once you tick that goal, there is a lot of research psychologically around this that says once you get those positive endorphins of achievement, it will drive you more to continue going forward. But if you continuously fail because you set the bar too high, you're going to feel like shit. And we all know that that doesn't build confidence. Achievement builds confidence and following through on something. And I know that's something for so many women I work with, and often coaches as well that come to me for mentoring. They aren't confident in what they're doing. And we all have those days. So what I'm a big believer on is, how do you do day-to-day actions that build confidence, that build happiness, that align with your values? If you go to bed at night doing all of that, awesome. Not every day is going to be like that, but at least if you've done a little bit of that, it's going to eventually over time build. Yeah.
I love that. It's just doing the bare minimum as well.
Yeah, exactly. The bare minimum that still flows with your bigger goals, and just not being so strict on those timelines sometimes.
Yeah. It takes me back to when I used to do like to-do lists. Well, I still do, but they don't look as excessive as they used to back then. I'd fill in like a whole page of like 20 things and I would get 2 done. And at the end of the day, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm a failure. Like, why can't I get all this shit done? But you don't realize those 2 things would have been like really big tasks for you. And it would have taken, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours out of your day when you're seeing clients face to face, or, you have breaks for meals. So it's literally just breaking it down. And like you said, not so much setting yourself up to, for the worst case scenario, but being realistic with what you can actually achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we all can look like we can tick all these goals on paper, but like, are we actually doing them? And I like what you said about the list, because that's something productivity wise I probably do. I'm the same. So what I do on my work days is I set the tasks that are the most important and I do them first. The hardest or most important. Then I have what I call a bonus list. And the bonus list I actually set for the whole week. So rather than setting it for that day, it's like a bonus list that I'd like to achieve at some point in that week, because you might have days that you're more productive or things just take longer than expected. Like, for example, with the client check-in, some days the client check-in might take me 10 minutes and other times it's 45 minutes because they're having a hard time. They need to jump on a phone call. We've got lots of videos to review. It's a new program week. So again, it's kind of hard in our jobs sometimes when you're not a PT where it's set hours. That's actually easier to structure. I definitely feel like as a online coach, it's much harder to juggle your schedule than a hands-on PT. So like, my partner has ADHD and he's very, very intelligent. He's also a PT, but he does online too. And he really struggles with the online because his brain's just like, blah. So I have to help him with, like, again, not overfilling his plate, keeping it simple. Then he does 3 days hands-on PT and he's like, finds those days so much easier because it's just session after session. So again, if you're listening to this going, oh, I want to be an online coach, like, have a think about, do you actually have that self-discipline? You have to be quite self-disciplined to do this and do it well, to be able to work from home and motivate yourself without going, oh, there's washing to be put out, or, oh, I'm just going to watch an episode of TV, or like, like, definitely before I had kids, I would procrastinate more with the like working from home. Oh, I'll just take myself to the beach. Whilst those things are important, it's like, does that drive you? Like, is the reason you're doing online coaching because you think you're going to have all this freedom and flexibility and that's going to be a good thing? Or are you actually someone who needs a bit more structure and it might not be the best thing for you? So that was going off topic, but I think it's a good topic to think about, because I think a lot of people glorify online coaching and think that it's this amazing job. Whilst it is, I actually miss the hands-on stuff. I just can't do it because I've got the kids at the moment, but I definitely think in the future I'd love to get back more into like seminars and workshops and stuff like that, which again, we haven't really been able to do because of COVID. So we've actually planned our first one coming up in Perth in May. Me and my partner are running just a basic hypertrophy workshop, and it's just going to be fun, just getting that hands-on again. And you get that endorphin rush hands-on with clients when you see them achieve things. You get it a bit still online with phone calls and stuff, but again, dictate listening to this. Is that a market I want to go into, or am I better off just staying hands-on and being in that space? I don't miss the PT hours, that's for sure. The old
I don't miss that at all, but I know what you mean in regards to like the human connection, especially after COVID, when we were all like stuck inside, not seeing family, friends. But being able to teach other people in person, it's a whole different dynamic.
It's a beautiful feeling. So if you are a PT and you're new to it, like, enjoy it. It's one of those things that it's such a sense of fulfillment. Like, you can really change people's lives. And I've had clients that I still talk to from hands-on PT that I did years ago. I had one client I used to PT five mornings a week, and you really get to know someone on a personal level. And I went through a whole IVF journey with her, babies with her, like all of that. I ended up, going to her wedding and being such a part of her life, and I still talk to her to this day. So you can really form amazing relationships too. Not that you should be obviously like besties with all your clients, but you get that bit more rapport in person, which can be really beautiful, because the more rapport I feel you can build in a professional manner, the more you're going to be able to help the client, because you really understand their psychology and where they're coming from and how to motivate them. Because what works motivation wise for one client, which might be tough love, might not work for somebody else who needs more of a soft approach. And sometimes that's hard in the online space, which is why we do a lot of voice messages and phone calls, because the tone comes across a little better than sometimes if you're emailing someone, writing and being like, I've got to be a bit tough love, whereas in a voice message you convey, your tone a little better than them feeling like you're yelling at them.
Yeah. Yeah. I find voice notes are so much better.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and amazing for all my mum clients. They can just pop on my, 10-minute voice message for their check-in and listen to it in the car, and then, respond when it's convenient. So yeah, it's amazing.
I love that. So good. Oh my God, today's chat has been freaking amazing. I swear we've covered a lot more than I was actually expecting to chat about. But before we finish off, aside from that amazing workshop that you and your partner are going to be hosting, what else do you have planned for, the rest of March or April?
I'm looking at my little whiteboard for the rest of the year. So yes, we've got the Perth workshop on the 14th of May, which is, that's a 4-hour hands-on workshop. We've only got, I think, 4 spots left for that because it's quite a small group with COVID. Then we'll be running our next sort of challenge in the end of June, which is for mums specifically. I kind of hated the whole challenge word for a while, and I never really wanted to do them. And then I had one of my business mentors be like, you just have to do it the way you're comfortable with it. So our challenges are more about habit change, about building your confidence. With the mums, it's going to be really cool that it's tailored just to them, because we're going to give a lot of tips around, short, efficient workouts for mums, how to be time efficient, some meal prepping tips for mums, how to involve your kids. Like, it's going to be really cool that it's targeted around that. And then I'm also launching, don't know the exact date, but a postnatal return to exercise guide is going to be coming up. That's going to be really cool. I'm doing that with a physio. And that's going to be, when I say return to exercise, is also going to be a return to movement guide, which is actually something you can do in the first 0 to 6 weeks. So literally after you've popped your kid out, up to the first 6 weeks. Now, when I say movement, don't confuse that with exercise. So what we are doing is, it's actually a really cool, like, stretching and mobility guide, because again, after you give birth, your body feels pretty broken, and then you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, rocking a baby, your upper back and thoracic gets so tight and locked up, your hip flexors from sitting all day. So it's a movement guide I'm creating with a physio, which is kind of then leading you into then that 6-week checkup, and then you can move into our exercise guide. So it's going to be quite cool. Other than that, that is kind of the main stuff. Resources that I have available now is, I have a pregnancy nutrition guide on our website. And then you can always book like once-off consultations with me, or we have all of our coaching options. And there's 6, I have to remember now, 6 coaches that work for me. So it may not be working with me, but if you do want to book specifically with me, you can book a paid consultation through our website, which is really cool if you just want like a big chat about your goals. I love doing those sessions. And yeah, that's what's coming up. And then, my son's first birthday and our wedding. So, yeah.
So good. I love it. When's the wedding?
Not till October. So yes, I've got haven't got much sorted yet. I'm probably the opposite of a bridezilla. I'm probably too laid back and a bit too focused on work and other things. And I'm like, someone else will figure it out. Like,
you'll buy your dress the week before.
I know, that's the one thing I have organized, because I've got someone making that. So at least that's done. But yeah, I was like, look, we've got a venue, we've got a dress, everything else will come together. And pretty low key, chilled wedding. We've been together for like 7 years, so I feel like we're married anyway. We own property together. We've got kids, like we've got dogs. It's marriage, pretty much.
Pretty much is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I love that. That's so cool. So on the topic of women wanting to work with you and how to find you, what is the best way for them to find you? Like social media, is it the website?
Yeah, cool. Website is all new. We relaunched that. So that's just teamround.com.au. Really easy. You can click through. You can meet all our coaches on there. You can also go through to our online coaching channel, which tells you what services we have available. So we've got different tiers of coaching to suit your price point. And then you can book through to have a free call with one of our coaches. Or like I said, you can do the paid consult with me, but you can get a free chat with our other coaches who are available. Socials, my personal social is @Ali_Round. And then we have a Team Round account as well, which is team_round. So yeah, come follow along. You can always flick me a DM. I might be a bit slow getting back to you with everything I have going on, but I will get back to you. And yeah, I just want to, thank you for having me on, and thanks for you guys listening to my rambles. I know I chat a lot and talk fast because I'm passionate about what I do. Yeah.
I love it. Bring all the rambles. I reckon we'll probably do a part 2 for this one.
Yeah.
I reckon that'll be cool. Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, girls, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure that you share it, recommend it, screenshot it, tag the Women's Fitness Academy, tag myself, tag Alice. And then till next time, make sure you're taking care of yourself as much as you're taking care of others, and find that balance, whatever that looks like for you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. See you guys.